Rebel Wilson is back with her first feature film since the god-awful Cats, and this is also the first film she's done since her much-publicized weight loss. Let's talk about senior year. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new Netflix comedy, Senior Year. This is an R-rated comedy starring Rebel Wilson, as I mentioned, and it is streaming right now exclusively on Netflix. But before we get into the specifics of this movie, I do want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got that subscribe button down there for you to click if you like what you're seeing, and I do almost every new movie that comes out, I try to hit them, so if you're a movie fan like myself, perhaps you will be interested in that. So click that subscribe down below. All right, so essentially this is a sort of not quite check your brain at the door comedy, but certainly a suspension of disbelief. Nothing really in this movie, I think, would happen in the real world, specifically not the premise. The whole premise sort of goes out the door. So you will either be along for this ride with the premise as is, or I think you'll check out pretty early on in this movie. The basic premise is we start in 1999 and 2002, where the younger version of Rebel Wilson's character named Stephanie, the younger version, by the way, played by Angourie Rice, who we've seen in The Nice Guys and many great movies. But she basically becomes sort of the butt of some jokes and is left out of the popular crowd. So she decides in high school that she is going to be, captain of the cheerleading squad and go for prom queen and be as popular as she can be. Well, at a big cheerleading routine, she ends up dropping on her head and entering into a 20-year coma. She wakes up at age 37, and she is now Rebel Wilson, and doesn't know what's going on, but she is determined to not only finish her senior year, but get back to the popular squad. So right away, I mean, the main premise of the movie is a 37-year-old woman attends regular school with 16 and 17-year-old kids. It would just never happen. Certainly not in this day and age. Maybe, in the days of Billy Madison, maybe it was a little more plausible, but not so much anymore, I would think. But in any case, a lot of the people that she grew up with are now working for the school in one capacity or another. One of her former friends, who she sort of ditched once she got popular, is now the school principal. This guy who used to like her, played by Sam Richardson, is now the school librarian. And then her best frenemy, I guess you could say, is played by Zoe Chow, and she is married to the heartthrob of Stephanie's life in high school, played in the present day by Justin Hartley from This Is Us. So this movie is interesting because we don't get a lot of R-rated comedies anymore. Years ago, it was kind of the go-to. Movies like The Hangover and Bridesmaids sort of ushered in a new era of R-rated comedies, and we had several, every single year on the big screen. But a lot of those have either been relegated to streaming or they just don't exist at all anymore, because some people might say comedy is a little hard to do these days with everybody up in arms, about being offended and whatever. The nice thing about R-rated comedies is, yeah, they do tend to offend people. This one sort of walks that line of a little bit maybe of offensive humor, but more it's kind of tongue-in-cheek at giving us the differences between, okay, senior year for somebody in 2002 versus 2022. And we talk about, the social media stuff and the popularity and how there is no prom queen anymore because everybody's a winner and that kind of thing. These are some maybe light jabs. But one thing I will say that this movie, I think, did cleverly in its script is it didn't dwell on the advent of different inventions that weren't around in 2022. I mean, yes, there's a couple of scenes where she has to understand what smartphones are and all that, but it's pretty fleeting. This is not one of these cases where every scene there's like a new, knowledge drop on Stephanie of what's the latest technology or whatever. There's a couple of drips of that, but I think it would have been easy for this script and lazy, honestly, to sort of lean into that. And they don't really do that here, which I appreciated. Rebel Wilson is the star of this thing. And like I said, this is her first big feature since her much publicized weight loss. She lost, I think, 60 pounds or something. And, part of her identity as a comedic actress was her weight. I mean, her character in Pitch Perfect was called Fat Amy. So I think a lot of people were wondering, can she be funny if she's not fat? That kind of thing. And the truth is, look, she is a funny person, and I got a lot of pretty decent laughs from this movie. Probably not nearly as much as they had hoped for. But the other thing is, I don't think she really could have done this character as her old body type, because there's a lot of cheerleading dance moves. There's a lot of things that I'm not sure would fit in with the subject matter. But the good news is, look, it doesn't matter whether she's heavy or thin. She is funny. And I think that is a big issue. I know she had, released a statement a few years ago saying that she lost a little bit of weight during Pitch Perfect, and the producers told her, you can't lose any more weight for this next movie because, it's in your contract. That's that kind of stuff can mess with a person's mind for sure. And this movie does sort of have its roots in this idea of being true to yourself and your self-identity and your adrenaline from things like, being popular on the internet and things like that. Ideas that I'm sure she was sort of getting in these last, 10 or 12 years that she's been fairly famous. So I think it sort of dovetails nicely that this is the first sort of post-weight loss role for her, because I do think there's a lot of common themes here with this movie and her personal life as well. So it makes sense that she would be drawn to this script. But look, there are a lot of negatives here. There's no sugarcoating it. Number one, you do really, really have to suspend your disbelief for this to even work at all. Second of all, I do think there's a couple of tonal misses here, because it's, the idea of being true to yourself, but it's also mixed with sort of poking fun at the new norms of the day, especially in, with younger kids and with school, about, you still do kind of want to fit in, even though the theme of the day is like, oh, everybody's a winner and everybody's great. They're kind of poking fun at that idea in the first half, and then in the second half, it's more like, oh, yes, you do want to be true to yourself. So there's a couple of sort of conflicting views here. But I will say that I laughed more than I thought I would. I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score for this, and I think it's at like a 28% currently. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is maybe going to be another bad one. I've been on kind of a bad run lately here with movies, but I did enjoy it actually more than most of the movies I've seen lately. It definitely hit me in the right spot, and maybe that's because there's not many comedies out there these days, especially of kind of the R-rated variety. And I will say this didn't need to be R-rated. Other than a few F-bombs, I don't think there's anything in here really that is above a PG-13 level. And to be honest, I think kids in middle school and high school should be able to appreciate this movie. So I'm not sure that they needed to go the R-rated route, but all right, it's on Netflix, so it's not like you have to pay admission at the theater. Kids can just kind of watch this anyway, I'm sure. The way Netflix is set up, I'm sure most parents don't have their controls on. So anyway, I think this is a very, very slightly passable movie, but you definitely do have to sort of suspend that disbelief, or I don't think you're going to be along for the ride at all. So I leave Senior Year with a C+. All right, that will do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see everybody next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.